Let's just jump right in with this line because it's not just a warning. It's really a question, and it's the key that unlocks this entire way of thinking. Why do we do the good things we do? Is it for an audience, or is there something deeper going on?
What we're really looking at here is a timeless human conflict. It's this tension between the outer show, the performance we all put on for the world, and the inner reality of who we really are. This text presents two very different paths, and the choice we make between them, well, it changes everything. So, to make this idea of an outer show versus an inner reality really stick, the text zooms in and applies this lens to three core religious practices. It's a pretty brilliant way to take a big, abstract idea and make it super concrete. So, first up is charitable giving. Now, you'd think this is a pretty straightforward good deed, right? Well, the text basically says, not so fast. Turns out the motivation behind why you give is everything. Just look at this contrast. It's so stark. On one side, you have the performer. The text says they sound a trumpet. Can you imagine? Making a huge public spectacle of their charity just to get praise. But then you have the secret way, which is an act so private, it's described as your left hand not even knowing what your right hand is doing. And here's the kicker. For the people who give publicly just to get applause, the text says that that applause is their reward. That's it. The transaction is done. You got what you wanted. All right, next up, prayer. And you're going to see it follows the exact same pattern. We're shifting from our actions towards other people to our communication with the divine. And again, the difference is night and day. The hypocrite's way is public, it's loud, it's performative, praying out on the street corners using a lot of fancy but empty phrases. The secret way? It's the total opposite. Go find a private room, shut the door, and have a real, direct, sincere conversation. So, to avoid those empty phrases, the text gives us a kind of blueprint. It's not a rigid script you have to follow, but it's a structure for a prayer that has substance. It flows from praise to aligning with a higher purpose, and then to our own needs for provision, forgiveness, and guidance. It's all about the content, not the show. And wow, tucked right into the middle of that model for prayer is this incredibly powerful condition. The act of asking for forgiveness is directly tied to your willingness to forgive other people. It's a two-way street. You can't expect to get something you're not willing to give. Okay, the third and final example in this section is fasting, an act of self-denial. And guess what? The text shows how even this can be twisted into a performance. The contrast here is actually kind of funny. The performative way is to look as miserable as you possibly can, gloomy, messy, so that everyone knows just how pious and disciplined you are. The sincere way? It's to just act normal. Wash your face, look your best, so the whole thing stays a private matter. And you see the theme, right? All three of these examples, giving, praying, and fasting, they all wrap up with this exact same idea. For the good deeds done in secret, there's a reward from a source that sees what other people don't. And that wraps up this first part about our actions. And this is where the whole thing shifts gears. We move from the what we do, to the why. The focus moves from our religious practices to the fundamental values that are driving our lives. It's asking, what is the focus of your heart? The text uses this fantastic analogy of investment. Think about it. You can store up treasures on earth, money, status, stuff, but all of that is fragile. It can decay, it can get broken, it can be stolen. Or you can invest in treasures in heaven, things like your character, integrity, relationships, things that are described as permanent and totally secure. This line right here, this is the thesis for this whole second half. It's so simple, but it's so profound. It's cause and effect. Whatever you value most, whatever you truly treasure, your heart, your passion, your real self, it's going to follow right along. And to build on that, we got another cool metaphor. The eye is the lamp of the body. So what does that mean? Well, think of your eye as your focus, your perspective. If your perspective is healthy, fixed on good things, your whole being is filled with light. But if your focus is bad or divided, then your whole life feels dark. Your perception literally creates your reality. So this leads to the obvious next question, right? If our focus is that powerful, if it determines our entire inner state of being, then where on earth are we supposed to place it? And the answer we get is just blunt. It's absolute. There's no middle ground here. There's no trying to have it both ways. You simply cannot divide your ultimate loyalty. You have to make a choice. And here they are, the two masters that are mutually exclusive, God and money. And look at the language used here. It's the strongest possible language. You will inevitably love one and hate the other, be devoted to one and despise the other. The argument is that a life dedicated to spiritual values and a life dedicated to chasing wealth just can't coexist.
So, you've chosen a path, you've picked a master. What happens next? Well, this final section is all about the consequence of that choice. It's about the resulting state of your soul. So, what's the number one symptom of serving the wrong master? According to this text, it's anxiety. That constant, nagging worry about basic material needs, food, clothes. This is presented as the direct result of treasuring earthly things.
And the argument against this anxiety is just beautiful. It's drawn from the natural world. It basically says, hey, step outside for a second. Look around. Look at the birds. They don't worry about their next meal, and yet they're fed. Consider the wildflowers. They don't work, yet they're more beautiful than the richest king. The logic is simple. If a divine provider takes care of these temporary things, won't it also take care of you? And that brings us to the ultimate solution offered here. It's a complete reordering of your priorities. Stop chasing the things directly. Instead, the instruction is to seek first the kingdom of God, that inner reality, the right motivations, the treasure in heaven. And if you do that, the text claims, all those things you are worried about will be added to you anyway. And so we end up right back where we started, with that deep connection between what we value and who we are. This text has laid out two paths, two treasures, two masters, and two resulting states of the soul, one of anxiety, the other of trust. And it leaves us with its most powerful idea, turned into a question for you and for me. Where is your treasure? Because wherever that is, that's where you're going to find your heart.